but that's what tips whenever she comes in. Also, I'm sorry, and you are what's your name? And then also very lovely. Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. In this video, we're going to be talking about more books. So I thought it would be a great idea to collect all my 5-star reads from the time that I've started reading aggressively and combine them in a video. So that was what we're gonna do. The rating for all these books is obviously 5 stars. I'll be talking about their plot, why I thought they were interesting, and why I really enjoyed it and gave them a 5-star. So the first book that I'm going to be talking about is A Falling Heart for the Royal Guard. If you haven't watched my last video, I talked about this book in that as well as a very easy read to get into books. I gave this a 5-star because first of all, the concept so new, never read a concept like this before. And what the concept is basically that this girl who lives in the Tower of London and she works there. She doesn't have a fancy job, she just does like the tours of the Tower of London. And she sees this royal guard, tries to hit up a conversation. She just thinks it's funny how they don't get to speak. And so eventually the guard actually starts moving and talking to her during his work hours, and so that's how kind of their friendship begins. I wanted to be Maggie so bad. And also Maggie is having a hard time with dating, obviously because she is in the Tower of London. Online dating doesn't work out for her. It never does. That's when the story with the Royal Guard starts up. In the beginning, the Royal Guard and his friends are actually giving her advice how to be a pro at online dating. It's about her journey with dating and then making lovely friends in the Tower of London, which she never thought she could do. It also talks about grief because Maggie did lose her mother and she just lives with her dad. So that's a very heavy theme in this as well. And I just full on enjoyed this book. The next book that I'm going to be talking about is Once Upon a Broken Heart. Absolutely love this book. This book follows Evangeline, the main character, who's in love with a boy. However, the boy is destined to marry someone else, and now she's heartbroken and she just wants to figure out a way where she can make it possible that she can marry this guy that she loves and hopes he loves her back. So in order to do that, she makes a deal with a fate called the Prince of Hearts, and he deals with heartbreak, he deals with love. That's what his forte is. When she makes the deal, she realizes it was a huge mistake making that deal. In return for that deal, he asks for 3 kisses anytime that he likes. She needs to give that kiss. Kind of a weird deal, but that's what the deal was. And so as her journey goes by with the Prince of Hearts, she realizes the deal is just off and it's not gonna work. However, she can't come back out of the deal, and it's about where that deal takes her, all the adventure that she goes through. It's magic. It's basically a magical book, and I absolutely loved it. I gave it 5 stars. I was like not even halfway done. I was like, yeah, this is going to be a 5-star read. I love the main character. She's basically a hopeless romantic. She believes in love. She believes there is a true love and there is this prince that's gonna, you know, be with her forever. However, not the case. The places described in this book are so beautiful. I mean, just from the cover is pretty itself. You can tell how pretty the description that they're describing in the book will be. And the dedication for this book says, for anyone who has ever made a bad decision because of a broken heart. I feel like many people can relate. There's banter, there's tension, there's just a new twist and turn in each corner. You think you know what's going on, but you really don't, because someone's deceiving someone else, and it's just basically a game of lies, and I love it. And if you're wanting to get into something that's more magical and just more fairy tale-esque kind of, would highly recommend. The next book is The Cat Lady. This was one of the books that I did not expect to be a 5-star read, but when I finished the book, I was like, yeah, it is a 5-star read. It's basically about Mia, who's I think in her 40, almost 50s. She has the perfect job, perfect husband, the perfect life, the perfect house. However, she feels like something's missing and she's just not content in her life. And it's about the steps she takes to make changes to her life, even, you know, so late in her age, all the drama that ensues with it, because obviously she's making decisions that are affecting other people as well. It's a more character-driven book, but that doesn't mean it lacks plot. There's also the dynamic she has with her friends, and it's just amazing to see that perspective, because obviously I'm not 40 yet, so I don't know what that's like. It's just a new perspective, and it's a very refreshing book, I would say. Next, I have a Twisted Games. If I'm not wrong, this is the 3rd book in the Twisted series. I don't think I've rated any of the other books 5-star, so this really says something about this book. This book is about Twisted series. If you don't know, it follows a group of friends. Well, they're not really a group of friends, but they're related in some sort of way. And so this book is about the princess of Eldora, soon to become a queen of Eldora. Because she's a princess, she obviously needs a guard, and she gets a new guard. That guard is pretty, you know, weird. Obviously, when you have a new dynamic, romantic, it's gonna be weird. The bodyguard she gets is Reese Larson, and unfortunately for her, her bodyguard is a pretty handsome, pretty attractive, and I think Reese, the guard, thinks the same way of the queen princess as well. So his rule is that he never mixes his personal life with his work life. His only rule is to protect his client. Bridget is a princess and she can't really be involved in such a dynamic with her bodyguard or someone who works for her. So it's all about that, because they're just from two different social statuses, how they can't be together. It's just so much fun. Basically gives off the vibe where you're newly in love and you're just running around. You're supposed to be somewhere but you're not there, and you're going somewhere else. You're hiding around, sneaking around. It's a lovely time. Reese, oh my god. I thought I liked the other men from the Twisted series that I read before this. I was wrong. I think if I wanted a man to come to real life from a book, it would be Reese Larson from this book. He is literally the perfection of a man, especially to have the mixture of having a bodyguard who is, you know, kind of muscular and confident and does his job, and then also having a soft side to him, I feel like is very lovely. And so I don't blame Princess Bridget for falling for her bodyguard. Next book is Glass Houses. This was again one of the books I did not expect to be a 5-star reads. This is, I guess I would say, a literary fiction. This basically follows two sisters, Jenna and Rosie, and they have a difficult dynamic. They're not really that close. However, you know, they're sisters, so they have to be. And Jenna suddenly loses her job, is doing nothing with her life basically, and so she has to move in with her sister. And Rosie is well settled. She lives in a studio apartment, I think. She just obviously isn't a fan of having her little sister there and taking care of her, because she herself, her life is messed up. She just doesn't want another thing to be taken care of. And then this one fine day, both sisters find themselves involved in this community where you grow plants. It's a very unusual thing for both of them together to be in, because obviously they can't stand each other. And the purpose of this group is to bring an overgrown garden back to life. It's through that community and through that service that they're doing that they manage to learn a little bit more about each other, and they manage to make new friends outside of just their sibling dynamic. And it's just a very cute story. Jenna in this book is depressed, and it does follow themes of depression and thoughts of suicide. So just a warning, at times this book can be heavy. However, it also made me cry a lot. I mean, you can see I've tabbed it. These are all the sad things that I've tabbed. It's refreshing to read a sister dynamic instead of a love dynamic. And the next book, or few books I should say, that I will talk about is the A Good Girl's Guide to Murder series. Absolutely love this. I think out of all the books that I've mentioned so far, these are my favorite series. If I could give this, maybe this would be like a 6-star. I do not know, but it would. And this is the only series I've read where I've given each book of it consecutively 5 stars. Also, a new show is coming out, I think in this year, July or June. I couldn't be happier. You will see me. I will not be talking to anyone that month. I will just be watching the show. I will be binging it, finishing it in a day. The first book. So the first book is about Pip Fitzamobi, who is just a normal girl in a little town. However, she comes across this murder that happened, I think, 5 years ago, and she does this for her school project. She realizes in doing research for that project that the person who they assume killed Andy, the victim, did not kill her, and everything was false and everything was a lie. And the person that they arrested for the murder of Andy in the town was actually wrong. So it's about her solving the case and figuring out on her own, without the help of police, what's happening, why someone innocent was accused and murdered for the murder of Andy Bell. It's fun, it's scary, it's also really scary sometimes because she's doing this all on her own. And sometimes you're like, oh my god, don't do that, you're gonna die. But also she has to do it for her project because she's just so invested in the story. And then when she solved that, then you have Good Girl Bad Blood, which is about another murder that happens in her town. It is just a little bit more closer to home what happens in this. It's a lot more affecting Pip, whereas in the previous book it wasn't really affecting her that personally. However, in this, because she has made friends, she has made relationships, and she has grown her circle, this murder indirectly affects her as well. And so it's a lot about her character arc developing. And because of the success of her previous case that she solved, she creates a whole podcast, and so she talks about the second case in her podcast, and she's doing research for that now. And then when that's over, the third book, As Good as Dead, the thickest book of the series, this is about a case that is basically, it's about her now. She's targeted, she is the victim, and now she has to save herself, and she has to figure out who is after her, why, and how she can save her family and friends, because obviously if she's affected, they're all affected as well. And this is, I think, the most heart-wrenching book of the series It is, I think, the most, what is the word, darkest, deepest book from the series because of the character arc that Pip has in this, which I did never expect. And sometimes I was like, girl, please calm down, you're gonna die, which honestly just makes it even better. The last page of this book made me sob. It made me sob. Like, I have a whole video of myself crying. I found the book to be so satisfying. I found the ending to be so satisfying. I couldn't be happier. And I don't really read what are those called? What is it called? Analog? No, acknowledgements. I don't really read the acknowledgements of a book. However, I read it for this one and I understood more of why the ending was how it was, and it just made me love it even more. I don't know what to say. It's just amazing, and you will know what I'm trying to say, what I'm not able to say of this book once you read it. My heart was literally over here every single page. I was like, oh, she's gonna die now. No, she's gonna die now. She's gonna die now. And so basically read this book to figure out if she dies, or if she doesn't, or if she doesn't, how she doesn't die. Highly recommend. The next book I gave a 5-star, I already showed it, was Fourth Wing. This was my very first fantasy book that I read, recommended by a friend, and I couldn't be happier and excited. Thank you for recommending this to me. And I do think about this book and the characters and the story of this book to this day, every single day. I've seen TikTok edits, I've seen TikTok trailers of what the potential film of this book would be like, and it is literally what I imagined, and I just hope they make something for this because it needs it. It really does. Now that I've said all that, what is the book about? The book is about Violet Sortingale, who is a normal everyday kid. However, in this world, every year they collect kids. Collect is not the right word, but you know, they collect kids from each family to take part in this university, in this challenge. And one of the big things that they do in that is either people become riders and they get to sit on dragons and fight or die during the battle, or they become scribes, which is what Violet wants to be. However, she's chosen to become a writer and she does not like that plan. She absolutely wants to be a scribe. However, when she enters the university and she passes the first test, she thinks to herself, you know what, I've passed the first test, might as well just do the next one. She's the weakest out of everyone. She's physically weak and she just cannot be a writer. She decides to stay to prove to herself that she can practice, she can train, she can fight, and she can be a brilliant writer. And it also has a great romance trope between her. More of a, I guess I would say, enemies to lovers. Absolutely love it. Absolutely love their dynamic. I thought I wouldn't love them at all. I did not suspect that was something that would happen in the beginning because they just strongly hate each other so much. And it's not like, oh, like I hate you, but like also you're lovely. It's like, no, I aggressively hate you and I want to kill you. Kind of enemies to lovers. I love it. I love seeing the way she grows in this book and her dynamic. And also it was difficult for me to get into, again, because it was my first fantasy book. However, once I understood the story, I understood the world, I ate it up. I never thought I would love dragons in a book. I just thought that they were a bit too much of imagination. I loved the dragons in this. I think the name is Terran. I guess the dragon's name is Terran. I love him so much. Again, I love the dynamic of someone being so strong-headed and just so aggressive looking, however having a soft side as well. I couldn't. Can you imagine? I was in love with the dragon. So many things that I loved in the book that I've tabbed. I just don't have the time, but I really want to read the second book because obviously that is a little bit more thicker than this, and I really have to dedicate some sit-down proper time to the second book. However, I will soon be reading that, and I'm sure I'm gonna give that a 5-star as well. And also the ending, I'm sorry, you will cry. Guaranteed, you are gonna cry. The death of someone in this book. Never thought a fantasy book could make me cry. It did. And I think of that death to this day. 5-star. Caraval. Hopefully that's how you say it. I don't know why my mouth can just never say Caraval properly. Caraval. So this is a special edition of the book that I have. I just had to show you. It's just beautiful. This book is actually by the same person who wrote Once Upon a Broken Heart. And once I read that book, people told me and TikTok told me I'm supposed to, or it's better for me to read this series first before I read Once Upon a Broken Heart. And so that's why I read this. I gave this a 5-star, which I did not expect. Basically, this book is about Caraval, which is, I think, derived from the word carnival. Obviously, it's an event that happens once a year and you only get invited. That's the only way you can come to the carnival. Caraval. What's her name? Scarlett and her sister are invited to this. They basically wanted to go to this carnival ever since they were children, and they also have an abusive father, and so it just gives them a great opportunity opportunity to run away from him and go to this festival. And so when they go there, Scarlet notices her sister is missing. They both were on a boat to this island that Caraval was held in. Her sister's gone. She's gone. She's nowhere to be seen. And now apparently her sister is intertwined in the game, and the end goal of the game is to find her sister, basically. So everyone who's flew in from other places, they're all finding her sister. And so now she has to take part in this game. Unfortunately, she now has to play the game to find where her sister is, make sure she's okay. And with her is the sailor who brought them to the island. What's his name? Scarlet? I need to look this up. Well, the sailor. We're gonna say the sailor for now. And so the sailor joins her on this journey to find her sister, and that's what the book is about. It is so fascinating. The world is beautiful. It is basically if there was a world made of candies and lollipops and magic, sparkles, fairy dust, period. Again, one of the books I thought would be hard to understand. However, just I think 2 to 3 pages in, I was like, oh yeah, I love it. I love the characters so far, and I love what's happening, and I love how they just jumped into the action and they didn't really spend time, you know, describing, oh, once upon a time. No, they went straight into it. I love the romance dynamic in this as well. I aggressively sobbed in one of the scenes. I feel like there were many unexpected things in this book, especially the relationship dynamic. It does end on a cliffhanger. Obviously, it's a series, so I was very intrigued and absolutely want the second book. Right now is on its way, but I highly enjoyed this book. It was so fascinating. I was in another world when I was reading it. This was one of those books that made me forget I was reading and just thought I was watching a show or a movie. And the puzzles, the rooms, I just love this book. 5 star, absolutely 5 star. This, I went halfway through the book and I was like, yes, it's a 5 star. It's gonna be 5 star. I know it, and it was. So those were all the books that I gave 5 stars that I remember so far. And okay, these were all the books that I really enjoyed. I highly recommend you read as well. If you read any of these books, please let me know, and let me know if you do rate them 5 stars or you give them something else. I just feel like these were all books that were a good time. Yeah, let me know your thoughts on these books if you've read any of these books, and if you're anticipating any of these reads this year, let me know which ones those will be. Yeah, I hope you guys like this video. Hopefully this showed you and gave you some recommendations on what your next 5 star read could possibly be. If there's anything you take away from this video, take away the Good Girl's Guide to Murder series. Please read this, because the show is coming this year, and let's watch the show together. Because before you watch it though, you have to read it. So, you know, make sure to follow me on TikTok, Instagram, and that's it actually. Make sure to follow me there, and I will see you next week with another video. Bye!